De Almeida from the Born to Play Futsal TV show, and welcome to the Barn Burner Network on ZingoTV channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Barn Burner and ZingoTV apps from their respective.
That's so cool. Thank you so much.
You're
Do you
welcome.
know I have a link to Canada? Do you?
No.
Yeah, my mother and father lived there in 1972 until 1977. No, 1978. And they lived in St. Petersburg first, which I believe is south of Toronto. And then they lived in Toronto. My brother was born there. My brother is Irish Canadian and he has a Canadian passport.
No way.
Yeah, and my best friend is was born there too. He lives here obviously, but he was born in the Rockies, which I believe is near you, isn't it? In British Columbia. It's in British Columbia, right?
Yeah. They kind of cross. Yeah, Alberta and
Alberta, he was in Alberta. Yeah, so yeah, I have a long history connection, and I still haven't been. So thank you so much for this. This is so cool. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's for those of you who don't know what he flashed. It was the T-shirt. It's a huge, but it looks like a huge Canadian flag.
Yeah, it does indeed. Here you are.
And it's a short sleeve one. Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you're welcome. Okay, so now we're going to do the icebreaker, which Alvaro is so looking forward to this morning.
An icebreaker? Oh, man, I'm nervous.
Oh, okay, good. You totally should be. Okay, so I decided not to go serious, not to go New Year's resolutions. So this is a bit on the corny side. If aliens came to Earth and asked them to go back to their home planet, would you go?
Me?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I think I would go. That would be incredible. I'm always up for a challenge, something new. I would definitely be away. Goodbye, Earth.
Goodbye, Earth.
Something new. Big time. Who's ever going to get the chance to do that? That would be incredible.
That is true. That is true. Okay, Alvaro.
Of course I would go.
Oh.
Of course I would travel there. To know a different place.
Yeah.
Come on, of course.
All right. Okay.
How about you?
No, you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I'd go, I guess. But I'd be worried that they'd like kill me. I don't know.
They don't need to take you there to kill you. Basically, they're inviting you.
Yeah, you have to make sure they're friendly aliens, you know.
Yes.
Get some due diligence done.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how I'm doing that due diligence.
Has any other people from other planets been there, and can we speak to them before I go here?
Exactly. Okay, those are really good questions.
They have to have communications.
Yes.
They have to have interstellar communication. So I would totally be into a whole background check and due diligence.
Okay.
Where are we going to get those information from? Deep web?
They must have interstellar communication. They must have.
Facebook, TikTok.
TikTok, alien TikTok. Oh my God.
Yeah, and you would have to have them agree. Like there'd have to be a contract, you know, and I'd have to have my solicitor look at it.
Oh my God, that's epic. Oh my God, that's amazing.
They might be like, nah, we're not taking this guy. There's too many terms.
Too many terms. Oh my God, that's awesome. Oh my God. All right. That was a really good icebreaker. Come on, Alvaro. That was good.
That was good. That was good.
It was, but I was nervous. I really was nervous.
You never know what's going to come out of my mouth with the icebreakers. Okay.
The best one was the glitter one. I'm not going to explain why, but the best one was the glitter one.
We'll explain the glitter icebreaker offline because that was a bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
That was a bit weird. Okay, so let's talk about futsal now since we talked about aliens. Okay, so let's talk about it. So Steven, how do you think, what was your thoughts on futsal from Europe? We're going to go continent to continent.
Before we jump into that, is it okay if I just introduce myself for anyone?
Oh, absolutely.
Totally. You know, for people who are jumping on because they have an interest in futsal, but maybe don't yet know who I am or, you know, why you have me on.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm Stephen McGettigan. As I was introduced, I'm from Ireland, but I live in a city called Belfast in Northern Ireland. And I have been promoting futsal regularly now since 2012. And it is a sport that I came across in 2005. So quite a long time now, and it's just changed my entire life for the better. And I absolutely love the sport, and absolutely excited all the time to see what is going to happen with the sport every day, every month, every year. And once you guys get more, excuse me, once you guys get more into it, I'm sure that'll be the case for you. If you want to check out my website, it's at www.futsalfocus.net. I encourage you to do so to learn more about what is going on around the world, rather, because a lot of people get stuck in their own localized or regionalized sport, which is fine, but we need more people to take an interest in what's going on around the world, which is why I'm delighted that you guys have me on today to discuss that. So yeah, that's all I wanted to do. Just a quick intro, and I'm happy to continue.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And I think Alvaro and I both can say this, that, you know, if there's anyone that knows what's going on in the world of futsal, it's Steven. So like you totally know. And there's maybe one other person I would say that, you know, has kind of the same caliber of knowledge of futsal and from around the world that you have. And so for Alvaro and I, this is a huge privilege. So thank you for coming on.
No, I think for us to start with the development, I think I would like to go like North America, North and South, and then make our way across to like Europe and Africa.
Yeah.
And then across to Asia and then the Oceania to finish. And I think it's most fitting to start with your show. You know, you know, as much as we all have to start somewhere, I started and then I built it, and that's what you guys are doing now. And I'm delighted that I could come on and support that, because as soon as I saw it, I just thought I wanted to promote it. And that's why I got in touch with you. So I commend you both for coming up with this, and also to Barnburner for supporting it. So congratulations to everyone. And I just hope it goes from, you know, success to more success to more, and fingers crossed for that. And so looking at, you know, as we've said, North America, is that I think like we'll touch on 2020, but there's a conversation there in just general of what's going on, whether it started in 2020 or not. You know, I think it's important to highlight great work that's going on. And when you look at like from your show to futsal courts being developed all the time, and I go online, I feel like I'm coming across articles where there's a futsal court being developed somewhere in North America. And the most latest one I saw is the Los Angeles Football Club saying that they're going to develop more across the state in conjunction with district schools, which is fantastic. To be giving those children the opportunity to play on a really good surface, to be playing and coaching in futsal, they get to play in futsal competitions and learn more about the sport, which is incredible. And they're not the only Major League Soccer club doing that across the States. Orlando Football Club as well have built some that actually have like it's not just a futsal court, they've made like a center. So around the futsal court is like these plots of land for older people to grow vegetables and fruits and flowers, whatever they like. And they're trying to make it really a center community place for sport and outside of just sport, to make people all involved. And then when you look at like, you know, we know with the professional futsal league that it's not if it happens, it's when it happens. And I can understand them as wanting to hold off for more of a market to grow and more people playing the sport across the United States. And then recently you have USA Youth Futsal launching their coaching licenses online, which Keith Tozer was heavily involved in. And I believe they're about to launch another level 2, which is fantastic. And so when people think, is stuff happening? Stuff is happening all across the United States, from Rose City Futsal to City, I can't believe I'm going to get mixed up. City Futsal Dallas, sorry. You know, and they all started small. You know, I see people in developing nations throwing out these pictures of City Futsal Dallas. You know, in Dallas, it's a magnificent facility, but they didn't start off that way. They started off as a family and 2 brothers who were pushing just in their spare time, coaching courses and leagues and recreational. And they built up their customer base, and then they started with 1 facility and they made that sustainable, and then 2 facilities, and then now they have this you know, this fantastic huge facility in Dallas, which is unbelievable. So everyone in the States should be so positive about what's going on. I know when we're in our wee bubbles, it's hard to sometimes see past that. And when you're feeling your own, if you feel like you're hitting a ceiling at times, that's why I think it's important to look at what's going on around the world and see you're not alone, because everyone is developing at different levels and paces, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay, and things will keep going if you be positive. And then if while we're on your show, you know, Alvaro, we spoke about this and Andrea before, we cannot go out of the Americas and not talk about via Price Sema Fred, the documentary about Fred at Magnus Futsal in Brazil, which is just incredible. Like, I don't know how many times you guys have watched it, but I've watched it like 3 times. I just think it's just incredible. And I actually confirmed, because when you told me the numbers, Alvaro, I was like, wow, you know, like I'd heard numbers prior, but I think when I had heard it was something like 20 million. And then when you told me the number, I was like, right, I'm going to go speak to Magnus Futsal. So got on the phone, was like, is this true? Is this true? I haven't seen these numbers. And they were like, yes, that's true. By the time the 8th series finished, 29 million people had watched it, which for futsal is unbelievable and shows you the diversity of content that people want when it comes to the sport. Like, for anyone that hasn't watched it yet, I'll try and give you a wee summary. Basically, Fred is a sports YouTuber, social media influencer guy who wanted always to be a professional football player or soccer player. And he knew of futsal, obviously watched futsal, but you know, he hadn't been involved in the sport as much as he had been in football. But the chance to play as a professional came with Magnus Futsal. He got to train with them, and he got to learn a bit more about the sport and the demands of being a professional and all aspects of being a professional. And Falcon gets involved to help him to understand certain things about the game and what it means to be a professional futsal player, and the physical demands, the mental demands, the technical demands, the tactical demands. It's unbelievable, and not just that, is so funny. So please watch it. Not now, wait till this interview's over, but after after this, please go straight on and watch it, because it's incredible.
And the funny thing about that TV show is I was watching Felipe Drummond talking about how to make futsal in Brazil become the next NBA model or something like this, what they need to do to prepare futsal in Brazil as an NBA product. And the thing is, they keep going with this show, not the show itself, but for example, Magnus played against Corinthians, the final league last week, and Freddie was there. If you try to find pictures, you're going to see Freddie holding the cup, getting medal and all that, and participating with the whole everybody. Even though he's not a player, he was there. So I
actually saw something on Instagram where it said 0 plays, 0 goals, 0 assists, 1 title, Freddie. Fred. It was really funny.
It's a very good way to promote this sport. So being there and talking about the sport and having someone with the caliber as Freddie, you know, helping the sport, helping to push forward, it's very good for us.
Yeah, even he says it, you know, like he knew futsal was big, but he didn't realize how big and how much interest is in it, because when he started to get involved and people watched it and people coming to him, he was like, wow, this is really blowing up. This is incredible, you know? So, and I just love him as a character. Like, I never knew of him at all, to be absolutely honest with you, outside of this documentary series. And I fell in love with the guy just, you know, by the end of it. His character is so funny. I was like, what a character to promote futsal. So moving away then from the Americas and coming to Europe, you know, you can't, for 2020, you can't go past Axis Futsal Club. You know, you just can't do that. For me, like, this year is all about French futsal in Europe. And this club, didn't, for anyone in futsal coming on and just learning about them, they will see that they have now some of the world's best futsal players playing for them. But they didn't just start like that. you know, Access Futsal Club started very humble beginnings. They started as a social community organization. I believe their name means Citizen, Cultural and Sports Association. And their introduction to the sport was from a recreational, actually like from 2008 to 2014, that's all they were playing. They were just giving people in their local districts the opportunity to experience and enjoy futsal as a sport. But when they saw the amount of talent that is in their community, they were like, well, we need to give these kids, these teenagers, these adults, these players who are gifted more opportunity to develop and enjoy the sport. And that's what brought them into futsal. You know, that brought them into the futsal pyramid. And when you go from like 2014 to 3 years later, they won the French Futsal Cup outside of the D1 and D2 divisions. It's just incredible. And when you fast forward to say 2019 and 2020, and they started to see that they'd built the club and built the foundations, and they were now in 2019, they were now into the top elite division. They wanted to progress that further and to help to not just their district anymore, but also the image and presentation and the entertainment level and to attract more people in France to French futsal, and also to bring attention globally to France by the futsal community. And that's what led them to, you know, sign players like Ricardinho, Carlos Ortiz, Bruno, and then also to bring in young French talent. Like they signed I apologize if I get his name pronunciation wrong, but I believe it's Landry Ngala, who's one of the best French, you know, young players coming up, and he's in the team. And they've really tried to bring a mix of the best in the world and the best French foot talent. And they have so much talent now that they have a B reserve team, and they have other youth, you know, youth teams as well. And they see the value of having those players there who are not just playing, they're also transferring their knowledge of the sport and helping in coaching and playing, which is great for player development. I don't know if you two have any thoughts on that. Have you been following that as well?
Andrea, do you want
No, go ahead.
Okay. No, I think it's a very, very important move from Ricardinho to move to France for the game of futsal. Because French Federation a few years ago, they said they would like to increase the number of players of futsal. And then at the end of that, Ricardinho moved to French, and then now the numbers are growing up for sure. But we know that in France, they have a lot of street soccer going on. And that's futsal, street soccer, free play time, all this, build a very, very good player. And that's nice to hear that Ricardinho is going there. So the players now, they have a place to go, which is not only soccer. Now they can play futsal. They can look someone and say, hey, I can make a career. The best player in the world is playing right here. So why not be a futsal player? So this is for the game of futsal. It's very important. And I think...
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry, I interrupted you. Please go ahead.
No.
Oh, what I was just going to say on your point was that you're absolutely right. Street soccer is hugely popular in France. I'm sure you've seen it even in the football game there. When some of the players score, they'll pull their jersey over their head and they'll have the name of their district where they played. There's a pride and a passion for where these people develop their talent on the street at a young age. And there's a documentary actually about it called Concrete Football, which is fantastic. If you haven't watched it, please get on. I believe it's still available on Netflix. If it's not, it'll definitely be available on Amazon Prime. You may need to pay for it, but I would encourage you to do so. It's an incredible documentary. And on what you were saying about the sport growing in France, the last figures I saw, I believe it was something like at a school level across France, something like 250,000 kids were engaging with the sport now, which is just amazing. That's just huge, you know, for this developing sport, because that's what it still is. It's a developing sport. And to say, well, we're a developing nation with 250,000 kids playing across the nation is a wonderful figure to be saying to sponsors or anyone that you hope to attract to the game. And so for me, when it comes to Europe, that for me was the development example. And but again, what I like about it is, like I said to you about when you think of City Futsal in Dallas, they started from humble beginnings and they developed it, And I encourage anyone here who's looking at their business case and their business plan and hoping to develop futsal facilities, and you're looking at Rose City, and I believe they're situated in Arizona in America, who have another wonderful facility there. If you're using these things as examples to get people to invest in you, you may be lucky and get someone who does. But what you really want to be doing is starting off small, showing that you have built something that is sustainable, and then you're transferring those people across, because that's what that club did. They built up numbers of participants, and then they had participants to be able to develop a club, to develop the academy, to develop the structures within that academy, develop the foundation. So like I said, that's why I like the linkage between that, is starting small and then developing up from there. So then when you come to, like I said, I was wanted to use Africa as an example. You cannot go past Angola, who I think are going to be really interesting at the World Cup. I think that Angola could possibly go past the group stages, and who knows how far they could go even after that. I don't know. We'll have to see. But even for them to get past the group stage as a first or second, possibly most likely second, but even at that will be a wonderful achievement. And but for them, like talking to people that I have in Angola, they say that Angola, a very big population of people, futsal is their most popular recreational sport. And there's been a lot of people who have wanted to stay within futsal, not just playing it with an association of love for football, which is absolutely fine. But at the same time, then futsal clubs have built up, and these futsal clubs have done a wonderful job to build the environment, to build the talented futsal players for Angola that have now helped them to qualify for a World Cup. What's really interesting here is that Angola has qualified for one football World Cup in their history, just the one. Whereas now they see, well, we have this huge pool of people playing futsal. We've qualified for a World Cup. We could potentially qualify for the next, 3 World Cups and really have a market share here and dominance of African futsal and be a leader in the sport. That they're now on the back of that launching professional futsal. And the people that are leading on this are an agency called Decathlon Marketing and Sports, along with the Angolan Football Indoor Federation. And what they've launched is an entity called the Futsal League of Angola, which will be the professional futsal league for Angola. And what they're looking at is they're looking at Brazil, and they're looking at the American model as examples. They're looking at the franchise model. And I like it because they're not every developing nation is starting differently. They had years and years and years because of their connection to Portugal. And then you have the islands like Cape Verde and everything that has a history of futsal as well. And also their connection to Brazil, historically as well. Angola has had, about 2 decades, I believe, maybe a bit longer, of developing that foundation grassroots, which they have in place. So they're able to go straight to the franchise model, and I think that's an interesting way to do it, because, and the way they did it in Major League Soccer in the US as well, because if you want to go the English traditional way, or the home of football, or France or anything, you're talking decades of club development, to really get it to that stage of. So that's an interesting way to get there very quickly. And I think we don't have to develop like football, and there's a lot of people in developing nations getting involved from a football background with a football mindset, and they're not bringing a futsal mindset, because they're still learning. And there's no problem with that. We all have to start somewhere. I'm not criticizing anyone, but that can be limiting for the sport. You need to look past football. I know our governing body's FIFA, but that doesn't mean they know everything about developing futsal. There's other sports that can be an example. Basketball, for instance, for me, would be the development example sport that futsal should be looking at, not soccer. And what I'm getting at anyway is that they're developing this model. And what they're doing is, which I think is amazing, is that they want to do it regionally first. And they also want to have divisional leagues. Now, these divisional leagues will be connected to the one body. Now, In America, you have the MLS and then you have other leagues, but they're all independent. But this is different. This is going to be connected. But what they want to do, they don't want to have a traditional relegation and promotion. It's not like that. They want to build financial leagues that suit an owner and his or her capabilities to be able to provide something to everyone at a certain level. So everyone has that means to step up. And clubs at each divisional level who show that they're maybe dominating that league or showing serious market growth, in their city or area, will then there'll be a flexibility in the league to say, right, we don't want them dominating that league, so we'll bring them up into a division that suits them, and then up another one, depending on how many divisional leagues there are. And they also want to have a salary cap, which I think is amazing. I think futsal across the world should have a salary cap, in my opinion. We do not want to be following the football model. It can make or break us, which is what we're seeing now in clubs in England when you think of the amount of money involved in English football, for clubs after 3 months of COVID saying, if we don't get support, we're going to go under, is a disgrace, to be honest with you. They should be able to be sustainable past 3 months, not looking for, government money, taxpayers' money to survive. So clubs need to be sustainable. And that's why I like that model. And that's why I think that clubs need to, and futsal in England and around the world should be looking at, we do not have to follow football. We can develop this differently. And that's an example to use. Have you been looking at that as well? Have you read about that stuff?
Yeah, I definitely have. And I do think that there's something to that. I mean, I think for the model that I actually look at is, and I look at European handball, I mean, it is so nice and tight, and it's such an amazing ecosystem. And to me, I think they've really done it well. But I agree, we do have a lot of people that come from football. They think they can do it with a futsal model. And I just don't think it fits. I don't think it fits the market. I don't think it fits the opportunity. I don't actually think it fits the player's philosophy. There's a different philosophy of a player and a futsal fan than there is a football fan. And I think whatever model is created, it's got to appeal to that. And I agree. I don't think the football model works. Yeah, and there has to be, it has to be looked at differently. That's definitely, I would agree.
I think when we say the football model, though, because we're both saying it, but we have to just clarify that we mean the traditional one.
Agreed.
If you look at the MLS, they're not following Europe. They did it completely differently.
Correct.
And I see the Angolans looking at that and looking at Brazil and saying, we can do that, but we can do it differently too. We can have a salary cap. We can build. What is also interesting too is that they want to, at the beginning, is not to have city rivalries. They want to give a club a chance to embed themselves. And when that club has had the opportunity to embed themselves, then look at city rivalries so they can come on board, because you have to be able to give a club the area and the size of the scope of the area, or a base to say, like, this is your area within a certain radius, and that's what you're going to work in, and you can build your market out of that. Throwing in a rivalry at the beginning could then cause issues there. Whereas if you have it later, then it gives competition. It makes it more exciting. And I think when you think of it at the MLS, that's really what happened in New York. And that's why the MLS is reluctant to give more franchise licenses out to other clubs, because they already have 2 there.
Yeah.
I think a third one they think is just too many. Whereas if you look at England, a city could have many clubs, you know? And I think that sometimes those clubs, what makes football special, though, is that in its history, clubs could start small and build their way up and be at the pinnacle, and then be in Europe. That's what made people fall in love with, like, Derby Football Club and stuff like that. In the 70s and things like that. Is that that those examples of clubs from the small coming up. But now, as we see more money flooding into football, that is changing. We're now going towards where we have UEFA Champions League and the FIFA Club World Cup, which is trying to compete with the UEFA Champions League. And then you have leagues talking about, well, let's scrap that and have a European league. And for me, if they go that direction, I think, in my opinion, it's an abundance of football at a European level, and then you're looking at local leagues trying to get that attention, and then that marketing intent of just over marketed. I honestly think that could, in the end, destroy football. I really do. Like,
interesting.
In my opinion, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I just think that from what I see, that could. But I think futsal has to look at it differently, which is what I know we're repeating, but I think we have to look at it differently, and that's what brings me. I think it's interesting to continue with this line of discussion rather than going away and coming back to it. So I think what I'll do is I'll go from Africa to the Oceania.
Yes.
And now I know Australia is football-wise is recognized in Asia now. You know, they play in the Asian competition, but they are part of the Oceania. You know, so for me, there's two examples there. Keeping in line with what we have discussed, I would say we'll start with Australia and then move to the Solomon Islands. So if you look at Australia, you have to go with the moment. And I just released the article today. If it interests you after this interview, please go to futsalfocus.net and you can read the article there. At this time right now, true leadership, in my eyes, is being shown by Pro Futsal. And their CEO is called El Ibrahim's. And when I contacted El, we talk all the time, and he told me what he was up to, I swear I got so excited. It's just like, I just thought, like, you know, I love to see that innovation and that creativity and that passion and that drive and not doing it from a singular, how does it just benefit us, but how can we benefit everyone that's involved with us? And what he's trying to do now is he started off, again, humble beginnings. In his spare time, he started doing clinics and leagues and recreational, and he built up his customer base, and then he transferred that to a facility. How many times do you have to say it? Going straight to a facility is a difficult sale. Having your customer base and just transferring it over is an easy sale. You come to me and I'm an investor. Well, how many people do you have playing? I have X amount.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, how much money are you making a month? This amount. Well, that'll cover the cost of the building. That'll cover the cost. You know, hell yeah, I'll back you. You know what? It just makes sense.
Yeah.
Build your. I'm repeating myself a lot, but I'm just emphasizing. But anyway, he went from one facility, and then, you know, now they rented a facility, and now they want to build one. But what they're doing is that sorry, my brain's rushing with excitement. Apologies.
No, it's totally fine.
But so they started off as Western Australia State Futsal Centre, and they had WA State Futsal Leagues. And then they had that for men and women, and then they had clinics. And what they did was that they not only built leagues and clubs out of that, they built a fan base. If you go on to Pro Futsal on YouTube and you type in there into YouTube and you watch their games and their finals, they have people all around the court and upstairs looking down, you know, watching the games. And for the developing Futsal Nation and a facility to be able to attract that community type of interaction is incredible. And so they started off that way. But then they realized when they brought in, like at their center, they have partnerships with people who sell products, and they also have, you know, the clubs coming in and doing their clinics and everything. And they've built really good relationships with sponsors, you know, like Macron and, you know, Red Bull and different things like this. And they built up all this incredible work. And then they said, well, we want to give our clubs the opportunity to benefit from the hard work that we have done. So what they've done now is that at their current center, they started off with one club, right? And they tested it with that club to see how that club could benefit at their center. And then it showed that it could work. And then now they've signed up another club. And that club is in Rockingham. And it's Cambio Coimbra Futsal Club. And that club now is going to have their own facility. But the way they've done it in the H.E.R partnership, a club will determine how much they take on in terms of the share at the beginning. 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 60%, whatever they feel they can deal with and have the experience to take on, they can have. But if they don't, like I said, pro futsal will help them. And then that can change though. Once they get in and they're working alongside pro futsal, if they feel, well, you know what, we own 20% at this time, but we feel comfortable now to take on a further 40%. That means pro futsal goes, okay, well, that means you take over this. We step back a little bit from that now. But on the days you see on, like, say, a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday, the state futsal leagues and anything connected to that will be in that center. And the center will be pro futsal. But the facility will be partly owned by the club. So on the Monday and the Tuesday and the Wednesday and the Thursday, the club makes their own revenues, and then they can make part revenues on the like I said, the Friday, Saturday, and the Sunday. So the club is getting a chance to see what it takes to manage a facility, sustain it, develop your employees, develop coaches, develop referees, keep people interested in their city, market it, everything else, and then gradually take over. And the more clubs that do that and get these facilities, and you should see these, they have one international court and then another court that is a little smaller, but they will use an international court, which is what they need. They need players playing in that league in a full-size court, and for the experience and everything. So for me, in Australia, where futsal is still developing, you know, like there's the Australian football, the Football Federation of Australia, which I believe have changed their name to the Australian Football Association, but they've been in and out of futsal for years, much to the frustration to the Australian futsal community. Having a national futsal team, suspending their national futsal team, having it again, having their national league, suspending their national league, and then their national league is based out of one region in Sydney, one city. So when you're in another part of the country and you're looking at, well, this isn't growing as fast to what we want, well, what can we do? Well, WA State Futsal, now Pro Futsal, have shown the steps that they're taking. They're developing out their product offering and at the same time assisting the people who take up their product and helping them to benefit from that product. That's a no-brainer to me. That's giving them an indoor facility, which is the purity of the sport and the dream, which everybody wants and argues it is the only way that futsal can properly be played, which is fine. But that to me is a great model. What do you think? Do you think that is a great way to help in a developing nation?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll totally. I'm sure Alvaro has some thoughts, but yeah, I'll totally jump in. I totally think. I think it's a really good way to do it. Because futsal is so community based, and we want to help and grow other clubs. And I also think what would work really well is being in Canada. We know from Alvaro and I are BC. We know that in Ontario and Quebec, futsal is huge, right? Futsal is much bigger than it is out here. So something like that for a model interests me because you're sort of creating a co-working futsal space facility, right? And so you're encouraging growth within your local community. For us, it would be the Lower Mainland. And yeah, you know what, if you've got 3 or 4 different clubs and they're smaller and they can't afford it, then you've given them an opportunity to play correctly and to build up sport. Because that's what we find where we are, is it's all fragmented in terms of rules and regulations and how you play and ball sizes and all this stuff. So you're giving them a space to play, and you're giving them also ownership too, right? To do it. I think what's interesting through all of this is, and Alvaro and I have talked about this as well, is what futsal really does is and focuses on the people who are passionate about it. It's entrepreneurship and it's thinking differently, and it's a different conversation than if you think about the traditional football model.
Yeah, I think the model you describe it there, the way I understand here, and I'm learning English, but the way I'm understanding here is they are sharing their expertise and trying to bring more players, more clubs, more people to practice and play the game. And I think that's the way we should be doing. Like, it's not because I understand the game or you understand the game or Andrew understand the game. We understand the game. We're going to close this here. No, we're going to play because now we know and everybody's going to. No, it's the opposite. We should open the way they're opening. Of course, there's a business aspect behind that. There's a business part behind that, and that's fine. we need more people that understand business working in futsal. We need to bring more people that understand this and help, as Andrew said, the entrepreneur side of that. Sorry, I need to see if I speak that word properly. Entrepreneur. Yeah, good.
Entrepreneur.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm fine.
That's why I got this.
Oh, very nice.
That's my English level. That's my English level.
Oh my God, your English is not like Baby Yoda. Come on now.
So,
but what I love about it too is that when you think of it, think like, say tomorrow out of nowhere, you know, because people do work in the background, and news can come out at any point. But say, just for example, say tomorrow in Australia, a group of millionaires or billionaires or whatever came together and said, oh, well, we're going to launch professional futsal, which is fine. You know, they say we're going to do the franchise model, we're going to do this and this and that, we're going to have teams across, you know, with Australia. That's absolutely fine. But what they have done is perfect to even go into that. Because say that club decided that they thought, you know, I don't know, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, that they were in a position to go for one of that professional leagues licenses, and they wanted to move away from WA State Futsal League into this professional league.
Mm-hmm.
The model they've built, because he'll have clubs in waiting.
Yes.
Clubs in waiting to say, that's fine, you can do that. And I'm sure they have in their agreement somewhere how things can end and exit points, like any business decision. But they will have other clubs in waiting to go, well, that's fine, well, we'll move into that center, or we will take that, you know, from that area, whatever way they work it. But they'll always have a place within that development structure.
Yes.
So it doesn't affect their business model. Because, you know, because if they say, well, the way you're working that is proper professional of a salary cap we don't even look at, well, then we're a semi-professional.
Yes.
You know, so I just think it's wonderful. I really love it, because there's consistency there, and no matter what happens in terms of competition, they always have a place, because they are helping their members.
Yes.
Who wouldn't want to come from a foundational level into a sport if you're an investor, even? Because I know for me, for example, say I have money and I'm nervous, I want to get involved in futsal, I think this is great, not too sure how to do it, I'm going to go to pro futsal. I'm going to go to pro futsal and say, I've seen the work that you've done with these clubs, this looks fantastic, can you help us, can I get involved? And you know, and they'll work out an agreement with me to be able to use the pro futsal branding, to get involved in the WA State Futsal League, and for me to have my own center. I think that's amazing. So, you know, so that for me is a great example, just carrying on from where we came from, you know, and looking at different ways, because every nation is going to be different depending on where they are in terms of their development.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting too, because if it works, if this works in Australia and they can prove it, that because we're such a global community, then for people like Alvaro and I, who we know that futsal will never take off in where we live unless we do get our own futsal facility or some type of, it's a really good business case to say, okay, look, we know this works in Australia. There's a lot of similarities with the demographics and the business market and the market. Build something similar here, doing that same. So yeah, no, I think it's really good. And I think it's also, you know, it makes me question whether or not is a professional futsal league in the United States the best thing to do. Perhaps they should also be looking at models like this. Like I know, you know, there's city futsal and the others, but perhaps that's also another good look at way to do it. Because the United States, I think more than Canada, is more prone to public-private partnerships. Whereas certainly with the Canadians, we're very much more, it's public or private. It doesn't seem to be they don't seem to work as well. So
well, that's a perfect, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, we've got less than 10 minutes. So
no way.
I was
really,
just,
it's gone by so fast.
I know.
Okay, well, I'll try and wrap up Philippines here quickly. But what you've said for me is a great stepping stone into the Philippines and Asia, because Kevin Goku, who I was talking there from the Philippine Football Federation, he doesn't want that. What you would find someone in America would argue, like, get someone wealthy and develop. He doesn't want sugar daddies. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't want to go that way. You know, he wants to build the game from the ground up, because in the Philippines, basketball is God, not football.
Interesting.
You know, and they have basketball courts all across the Philippines, you know, And also, football struggles in the Philippines. Their professional league is struggling to sustain itself, you know, because they went straight to the sugar daddy, let's build it from the top down, and it hasn't worked. For him, it needs to be built from the ground up. And for him, he's looking to basketball as the benchmark in terms of development. And he also sees the promotional opportunity like through 3v3 basketball, you know, how they've built that up. And he also, and I love this part, he also looks at Ireland as an example. And Ireland is an example because of the Gaelic Athletic Association.
Ah, yes.
Right? And the Gaelic Athletic Association is our traditional sports, but they're amateur. They're not professional whatsoever. But yet our national stadium has up to 80,000 people. And if I took you to around the island and I brought you to some of the county facilities and the club facilities, there's like something you would see out of a Premier League. And this is amateur. Yes, amateur sport. And why that is because we have obviously over 100 years of our sport, but also because obviously it's traditional now. But it does not mean how they have interacted with their community is not a benchmark example to use. They have built clubs to be part of the community. You know, I know people who at their local GAA club met their future wife, you know, went to, had birthday parties there, went their grandmother does bingo there. You know, it's a big part of their community. And because of the support they have from their community and from the religious sectors and the political sectors, then they also have people there who love and either donate to their club or invest in their club or develop it, but for the community. This is all about opportunity for the community. And like you're saying, using what L's doing in Australia for the States, you could still do that in a hybrid way if you still want to make money out of it. Of course, the GA, the clubs and the GA makes the money, but a lot of money goes to the association. But at the same to help develop sport from the top down. But it goes two ways. It's hard. It would take longer than 10 minutes that we have to hear. But all I'm saying is I 100% agree with you. I think that as much as the PFL is an opportunity in the States, and it will come at some point, I think while they're still waiting for it to come, what's happening in Australia is a wonderful example of what could be done. And that can help to grow the game at that amateur foundational level to bring it up. So when the PFL does happen, then there's a structure there that can be fitted in. And so I think that's a great way to then end it if we're cut for time. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It was great to discuss global futsal with everyone. I hope it was interesting for all of you.
No, I think it was great. Alvaro, you have to have some comment. We've got 4 minutes left.
No, I would like to talk about city futsal. I would like to talk about the Australian model. I would like to talk about the Philippines, because here in Canada, we have a huge community. And I can see when I work at schools, they love the basketball and they are very good at that. And then now we understand a little bit more, understanding the country. So the cultural thing, it's something that we cannot put aside. So what you describe in Australia is very important. And we need to understand here, for example, here in BC, as Andrea said, we don't have the facilities. But maybe bringing that idea here to Canada, we can make this happen, because the club that we were running together, the Brazilian Futsal Club, we could prove that, yes, there are people here that want to play futsal. We didn't have facility. Facility again. So, and the futsal model, the professional leagues, and I think all over the place we have this conversation. We need, in my opinion, a humble opinion, we need to play futsal the way futsal it should be played, following the rules, the futsal rules. Like once, okay, it's body government, it's FIFA, let's follow that rules. We have a lot of rules here and there, and that's a problem, especially here, and I think somewhere else. For example, the league that they were claiming to do in US years ago used to follow the same model that was done in India, which is a mix of AMF and FIFA, which is a problem. So let's try to structure this following the rule. That's going to help the sport. That's the best way to promote the sport, following the rule.
I agree with you. I think that having all these different rules can affect the identity of the game and its branding. And I think soccer is so successful in basketball because there's one game, one rules.
Yes.
And when you look at rugby in England, when you have rugby league and rugby union, how you get involved in the game then depends on where you live, because in the north of England, rugby league, especially in the Yorkshire area, will be a lot more popular, where in the south it's rugby union. And I think that, and as much as people love both forms of the game, I think if for rugby to have been as big as it could have been, having one set of rules, one game, one sport, one brand, one promotional would have been a lot better than what they currently have. But people love it as it is, that's fine. But I think you're right. I think FIFA futsal should have one rules and people follow that. But that's a big discussion.
It is a huge discussion.
There'll be a lot of people watching this going, no.
It's much more than 2 minutes.
All the AMF people, no.
Yeah. Okay, so then I think so that's gonna that leads us to, so we should definitely do this again, and let's talk about the rules, because I agree, that's one of the things I think this whole futsal back is that there are two sets of rules, and who do you follow, right? So
I know, but then we can fall into sports politics and everything. I might lose a lot of followers.
No, you won't. You've got the global perspective. No, you totally won't. Okay, so I'm going to do my wrap, and then I think we're good. So thank you, Stephen, so much for being on today. You've got such an amazing global perspective, amazing business global perspective, because you are talking to so many of the amazing players, the football players, futsal players, I should say, from around the world. So thank you, because you bring a very unique perspective, just a global business perspective that I don't think, Alvaro, we haven't really had. So thank you very much for that. And this will be my close. This show that you heard today can be heard on the Barn Burner Radio Network on its 122 platforms. Please check out barnburner.ca for all the news and programming. So once again, Stefan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Thank you so much, Stefan.